When night falls and sound withdraws, the archive remains. The night is long, the air is still. Only what must continue, continues. A hollow column stands in the dark. Its walls are thin relative to its height. The interior is empty, not emptied, not carved out, but formed as empty, the hollow a consequence of how the structure grew, rather than something removed after growth was complete. The column did not begin as solid and become hollow. It was hollow from the first cellular division that established its form. Hollow as the structure extended upward. Hollow now, at its full height. The emptiness inside it as original as the walls that surround it. The walls are not uniform. At intervals along the height of the column, the wall material thickens into a disc, a node, a horizontal partition that interrupts the hollow interior, dividing the empty space into separate chambers. The disc is not decorative. It is structural. It is the place where the growth changed its rate, where what was extending rapidly paused in its extension, where the cellular activity that produced the wall also produced at that moment a crossmember, between one disc and the next, a chamber of air, between one chamber and the next, the record of a change in speed. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. Growth in this plant is not continuous at a single rate. The extension of the culm, the technical name for the hollow stem, proceeds in pulses. Each pulse a period of rapid upward growth followed by a consolidation, a thickening of the wall at the point where the rapid growth ended. The rapid growth is cellular division and elongation, cells multiplying and then stretching, the structure extending upward as the new cells push the older ones higher. The consolidation is the laying down of structural material at the growth point, the thickening of cell walls, the deposition of the silica and lignin that give the mature structure its hardness. The node marks where consolidation happened, not where growth stopped. Growth did not stop at the node. Growth moved upward through the node and continued above it in the next internode, the next section of rapid extension. The node marks where the balance tipped, where the rate of upward extension slowed relative to the rate of wall thickening, where the structure briefly consolidated what the rapid growth had produced before the next pulse of extension began. Each node is the record of one such consolidation. Count the nodes on the culm, and you count the number of times the growth changed its mode, from extension to consolidation and back to extension. The nodes are not evenly spaced. A longer interval records a period of abundance, heat, moisture, the uninterrupted pressure of growth moving upward without resistance. A shorter interval is the physical record of a constraint, a cold night, a dry week, the point in the season when the conditions sustaining rapid extension began to withdraw. The culm does not describe these events, it becomes them. The spacing of the nodes is a graph built into the structure. The distances between consolidation points encoding the velocity of growth at each moment of the growing season. Run a hand along the culm from base to tip and you move through time. The slow establishment of the early weeks, the rapid extension of the peak, the closing intervals near the tip where the season was ending. The structure is the record. The record is the structure. Breath enters. Breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The wall of the culm is not uniform in its composition. At the outer surface, the cells are smaller and more densely packed. The vascular bundles, the structures that conduct water and nutrients through the plant, are concentrated here, near the outer wall, where the demands of growth required the most efficient distribution of resources. Inward from the outer surface, the cell density decreases. The cells become larger, the walls thinner, the structure less dense. The inner surface, where the wall meets the hollow interior, is the least dense of all. Large cells, thin walls, the minimum material necessary to maintain the boundary between the wall and the air inside. This gradient is not accidental. The outer density is the structural concentration, the fibers that resist bending, the vascular bundles that carry the water upward under tension, the silica deposits that harden the outer surface against abrasion. The inner sparseness is the consequence. What is not needed for structural performance or vascular function is not built. The wall is thick only where thickness serves a purpose, dense only where density provides a benefit, and the boundary between dense and sparse is not a line, but a gradient that encodes the functional requirements of each layer. To look at a cross-section of the wall is to see a decision, not a conscious decision. There is no consciousness in cellular growth, but a biological optimization, the distribution of material that growth, over millions of years of selection, arrived at for this structural problem. Tall, slender, hollow, with walls that are dense where stress concentrates and sparse where stress is low. The cross-section is the solution. The solution is visible in the cross-section. Consider the hollow. In a solid column of the same outer diameter, most of the material would be far from the outer surface, in the interior, contributing little to the resistance against bending. Bending stress concentrates at the outer surfaces of a column. The outer fibers carry the tension and compression that bending imposes. The interior carries little. A solid column wastes the material at its center, carrying it without using it. The hollow culm wastes nothing. The air inside the culm contributes nothing to the structural performance and requires nothing from it. Air has mass, but so little mass that the hollow culm is almost as light as if the interior truly contained nothing. And the structural material that would occupy the interior in a solid column is, in the hollow culm, not present, not needed, not grown, not available to add weight without adding strength. The hollow is not a deficit. The hollow is precision. The culm has material exactly where the structural demands require it, and nothing where structural demands do not. This is not the result of design in any intentional sense. It is the result of growth, which deposits material in response to the stresses imposed on developing tissue, which builds where building is needed and doesn't build where building would serve no purpose. The form that growth produced is the form that engineering would design. These two arrived at the same place by different means, one by intention, by calculation, by the deliberate arrangement of material to meet specified requirements, the other by cellular response to mechanical stimulus, by the accumulation over time of the growth patterns that survived because they were sufficient and discarded the growth patterns that did not survive because they were not. The hollow is the result of both processes expressed in one structure. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. At the node, the hollow is interrupted. The disk of denser material that forms the node is not a complete seal. There are passages through it, small channels through which the vascular bundles continue their path from one internode to the next. The node does not sever the connection between adjacent chambers. It modifies it. The rapid flow of air that would pass through a fully open hollow is slowed at the node, redirected through the channels, which are small and irregular, and impose a resistance that the open hollow does not. Wind entering the culm from the open tip travels downward through the chambers and finds, at each node, a reduced passage. The sound changes at each node, not dramatically. The culm is not an instrument designed to produce discrete pitches, but the acoustic behavior of the air column inside the culm is modified by the nodes, by the irregular passages through each disc, by the variation in internode length that the growth pattern produced. A wind that enters a culm with many nodes, closely spaced, encounters a different acoustic structure than a wind that enters a culm with few nodes, widely spaced. The sound produced by the wind in the first is different from the sound produced in the second, not in a way that could be predicted precisely from the node spacing, but in a way that is determined by it. The nodes shaped the sound before there was any sound to shape. The growth that produced the node spacing was complete long before wind found its way into this culm. The acoustic consequence of the node spacing was not audible while the growth was occurring. The culm grew in the absence of the wind that would, later, reveal what the growth had built. The structure was made. The sound came after. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The culm that stands tonight has been standing since its growth completed. Growth in this plant is front-loaded. The culm reaches its full height in a single growing season, within weeks in the most rapid phase of extension. What is the culm's full height at the end of that season is the culm's full height. The culm does not grow taller. It does not add height in subsequent years. It matures. The wall material hardens further as additional silica and lignin are deposited. The outer surface develops its characteristic sheen as the waxy coating thickens, but the geometry is fixed from the end of the first season. The number of nodes, the spacing of the internodes, the distribution of the hollow chambers, all of this was determined during the weeks of rapid growth and has not changed since. The record in the structure is a record of weeks. Weeks in which the conditions determine the growth rate, the temperature, the availability of water, the length of the day, the nutrient supply from the root system, and the growth rate determined the node spacing. And the node spacing became the structure. And the structure has persisted, unchanged in its geometry, through every season since. The growing season is over. The conditions that determined the structure are gone. The particular temperatures of those weeks, the particular rainfall, the particular length of daylight that initiated and sustained the rapid growth phase. None of those conditions are present now. They were present once, briefly, and the culm recorded them in its node spacing. And the node spacing has persisted, as the conditions have not. What the growing season was, is held in the structure of what it produced. Consider what this means for the structure standing now. The culm does not contain the growing season. It does not store the temperature of those weeks, the measure of the rainfall, the angle of light that fell on the emerging tip. These are gone. They were conditions, not materials, and conditions do not persist in the way materials persist. What persists is the consequence of those conditions, the node spacing that the growth rate produced, the internode length that the extension produced, the wall thickness that the structural demands of that particular height produced. The conditions are absent. Their consequence is here in the geometry of the structure they shaped. The season was the cause. The culm is the effect. The cause is gone. The effect remains. The conditions are absent. Their consequence is here. The plant does not describe these events. It becomes them. This is the particular kind of record that a growing structure makes. Not a record of the conditions themselves, but a record of their consequence. A record made not by inscription but by formation. The structure grew as it grew because the conditions were as they were, and the structure that resulted holds in its geometry the information that those conditions contained. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The culm is still in the night air, not motionless. The stillness of the air at this hour does not reach the base of the plant, where the root system connects this culm to the network of rhizomes, the horizontal roots that extend through the soil and link every culm to every other culm in the grove. The rhizome system is alive still, always, conducting water, distributing nutrients, sending out the growth points that will produce next season's new culms. The culm above ground is mature, finished, its growth complete. The system below ground is not finished, it is preparing. Next season's culm is not yet a culm. It is a growth point on a rhizome, a node on the horizontal root structure, a potential that the root system is accumulating resources to realize. When the season arrives, when the temperature reaches the threshold that triggers growth, when the day length signals that the growing period has begun, the growth point will activate and the new culm will emerge from the soil and extend upward day by day at a rate that records the conditions of those days in the spacing of its nodes. The record will begin again, in a different culm, under conditions that will be similar to this year's but not identical. Different rainfall, different temperature curves, different soil moisture at the critical early weeks. The new culm's node spacing will be similar to the old culms but not the same. Each culm is a separate record of a separate growing season. The grove, which holds many culms of many ages, holds many records simultaneously. Each one a different season, each one slightly different from the others. The variation between them, a record of the variation between the years that produced them. Breath enters, breath leaves. Between breaths, the air holds its density. The culm rests in the still of this room, not in a grove. Here, in the dark, a single culm. The root system that produced it is absent. The rhizome network that connected it to the rest of the grove is absent. What remains is the culm alone, the hollow column, the nodes at their recorded intervals, the wall with its density gradient, the chambers of air sealed between the disks. The chambers hold air that has been held since the culm matured. Not the same air molecules. Air moves through the small passages in the nodes, through the open tip, through any imperfection in the wall. But the chambers themselves have held air continuously since the culm's growth ended. Air at roughly the same pressure as the surrounding atmosphere. Air that is exchanged slowly with the outside rather than rapidly. The air inside the culm is in the culm the way the culm is in this room. Present, occupying the space available, neither stored nor free. Outside, the night is quiet. The conditions that made this culm are years in the past. The growing season that determined these node spacings, these internode lengths, this distribution of density in the wall. That season ended and was followed by other seasons, each with its own conditions, each producing its own culms from the rhizome network, each adding a new record to the grove. This culm holds one season. The node's record when growth changed its rate. The internode lengths record how fast the growth was when it was fastest. The wall density records what the structure needed at each layer. The hollow records what the structure did not need. All of it fixed now, in the hardened material. All of it present in the geometry. All of it held in a structure that will not grow further, will not change its node spacing, will not redistribute its wall density, will only harden slightly further as the seasons continue, and darken at the surface, and become in time more completely what the first season made it. The record is complete. It was complete at the end of the growing season that produced it. It has been complete since. Nothing that has happened in the seasons between then and now has added to it or subtracted from it. The culm has been holding it, without effort, without intention, in the only way a structure can hold anything, by being the thing it became. True wisdom cannot be captured in words. It is found only in the silence between them. When night falls, the archive remains